Hey everyone, and welcome to this explainer. It's the Independence Day weekend in July 2026, and honestly, if you just glance at the headlines right now, you might feel a bit scattered. I mean, we've got extreme summer heat, massive tech investments, and complex global diplomacy all fighting for the front page. But today, we're going to take all those seemingly random pieces and connect them into one really cohesive, fascinating story about exactly where we are right now.
So what is actually defining our world in July 2026? Well, if we look closely at the underlying data, we are in the middle of a massive transition. We're moving away from those isolated viral news bites and stepping right into an interconnected story of intense global modernization. It's a reality where digital software is finally colliding with our physical, real-world infrastructure in ways we just haven't seen before. Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. First, a mid-year economic snapshot. Second, AI becomes business infrastructure. Third, the energy grid squeeze. Fourth, global stability and trade. And fifth, the evolving human workforce. Starting right off with Section 1, our mid-year economic snapshot. To quickly establish the macro setting of the world this week, the backdrop is fast-paced but surprisingly stable. Independence Day travel is absolutely hitting peak volume across highways and airports. Meanwhile, financial markets are wrapping up a holiday-shortened trading week, and they are strictly focused on the fundamentals, employment, inflation, and corporate earnings. And culturally? Well, World Cup knockout football is drawing eyes from practically every country on Earth right now. Now, what's really interesting here is the sheer variety of top headlines currently capturing the public's attention. On one hand, you have Florida becoming the first state to sue OpenAI over safety failures. In geopolitics, we're seeing a tentative U.S.-Iran peace agreement regarding the Strait of Hormuz. And down on the border, federal authorities just uncovered a massive 2,000-foot drug tunnel connecting Mexico to the U.S. These are completely disparate headlines, right? They show this broad, wild spectrum of current events happening in the background. But to really understand the broader economy, we have to zoom into the core tech trend that's driving it all. Which brings us to Section 2. AI becomes business infrastructure. This right here is the single biggest underlying driver of the global economy right now. The enterprise technology cycle has fundamentally shifted. Think back to the recent past, it was all about rapid experimentation with AI, right? Just playing with the shiny new toy. But our 2026 reality is entirely about operational discipline and execution. AI is now standard, routine business infrastructure, and it's being evaluated through a really strict lens of measurable ROI and operational reliability. So what does this actually look like in practice? Well, AI coding assistants are completely reshaping software development. They're making developers dramatically more productive. And the foundation models themselves, they aren't just competing on who can build the absolute largest model anymore. They're fiercely competing on efficiency and operating costs. We're seeing enterprise automation reach totally new business functions, and digital modernization is expanding rapidly across both the government and private sectors. In fact, right now, infrastructure spending is actually outweighing consumer technology spending. Tech leaders aren't just experimenting anymore. They are demanding measurable productivity gains. Let's move on to Section 3, the energy grid squeeze. Now, this is the exact moment where that digital software collides with physical reality. Think about this for a second. What do massive AI data centers and the intense July summer heat waves across the US and Europe actually have in common? It sounds like a bizarre pairing, but the connection between them is arguably the most critical infrastructure challenge we are facing today. The answer? Together, they are pushing the electric grid to its absolute limits. The sustained summer heat means millions of air conditioners are just running at full blast. And at the exact same time, all that massive capital investment we just talked about, all those enterprise AI deployments and new global cloud capacity, they require an unbelievable amount of electricity. AI operating costs and power demand are totally reshaping the landscape. The domino effect here is super clear. Step 1, AI infrastructure is driving unprecedented, long-term electricity demand. Step 2, utilities nationwide are having to rapidly alter their forecasts to prepare for these sustained power needs. And Step 3, this forces a hugely accelerated wave of physical investment into grid modernization, nuclear energy, and renewables. Our digital modernization is literally forcing us to rebuild our physical energy networks. Zooming out a bit, here's Section 4, global stability and trade. There is a vital reality we have to acknowledge here. To pull off all this intense infrastructure investment, we desperately rely on a stable global backdrop. And surprisingly enough, right now we have it. Middle East diplomacy is supporting remarkably stable global energy markets, and commercial shipping through the critical Strait of Hormuz is remaining uninterrupted.
Plus, despite uncertainties like the ongoing operations in Ukraine, global supply chains have adapted incredibly well. Oil-producing nations are keeping a very close eye on demand, and global trade routes are staying resilient. Essentially, this stability is the quiet engine that's allowing all these massive modernization investments to proceed without disruption.
And finally, Section 5, the evolving human workforce. We've talked a lot about digital servers, power grids, and global supply chains, but how does all of this modernization affect everyday human careers? We'll look at the evolution of the worker. Back in 2024, hiring in the tech space was heavily experimental. Today, in 2026, employers are prioritizing measurable productivity, and they've shifted heavily towards skills-based hiring, where AI literacy is absolutely essential. And if we look ahead to 2030, continuous learning becomes your ultimate competitive advantage, because here is the critical point. Even as automation completely reshapes office workflows, human oversight remains absolutely essential.
We're seeing these real-world ripple effects most clearly in healthcare and medicine. AI-assisted diagnostics and drug discovery are advancing at a phenomenal rate, and cancer research is reporting steady, tangible progress. Investment in precision, personalized medicine remains incredibly strong. But, it's not all perfectly solved by algorithms. Because healthcare is becoming so heavily digitized, healthcare cybersecurity has been elevated to a massive strategic priority. And despite all of our technological leaps, we are still facing long-term healthcare workforce shortages. We desperately need skilled humans in the loop.
Which brings us to the core takeaway of this July 2026 snapshot. If you remember just one thing from this explainer today, let it be this quote from the latest reports. The defining trend remains modernization, building the digital infrastructure, electrical capacity, and skilled workforce needed for the next decade. We've traced the domino effect perfectly today. A shift toward digital execution creates a massive need for physical grid capacity, which in turn demands a highly skilled, adaptable human workforce to oversee the whole shebang.
I want to leave you with one final, provocative question to chew on. We are successfully building the AI infrastructure of the future, right? We're turning science fiction into standard business practice. But as you turn on your air conditioner this summer, ask yourself, is our physical power grid truly ready to support this digital revolution? It's a massive physical consequence of our rapidly evolving digital world, and for sure, it's the space you should be watching closest in the months to come. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and keep learning.